You may or may not have heard of Brunei. If you haven't, well, it's a small country in South Asia that has a population of a little under 500,000 residents. While the country may be small, it has an abundance of wealth that stretches far into the billions, and one family seemingly controls it all. Brunei is ruled by a monarchy that is descended from the very first sultan back in the 14th century, and if there's one thing I have learned, it is that sultans love their gold. Counting the golden cars, private jets, and luxurious palaces, it is evident that the royal family of Brunei still has a lot of wealth. In today's video, I will be taking a look inside the life of Brunei's richest family to reveal just how much wealth they have and how they spend it. Brunei's richest and royal family. Currently headed by the Sultan, Hassan al-Bolkiah Muizzuddin Wadala, the royal family of Brunei is certainly among the richest royal families, with a combined net worth estimated to be at least $50 billion. That is a sizable chunk of the wealth controlled by all the filthy rich royal families in the world. Together, these families control an estimated $2.4 trillion. Presently, the royal family of Brunei consists of the Sultan himself, his wife Queen Saleha, 12 children, and 18 grandchildren. That is not counting the former wives whom the Sultan has divorced and stripped of all royal titles. He kinda tends to do that a lot. The wealthiest person in the family is, of course, the Sultan himself, with a net worth of about $28 billion, a sizable chunk of the wealth of Brunei's richest family. Following closely behind the monarch is his son, Crown Prince Al-Muhtadi Billah, who has a net worth of around $20 billion. He and his brother, Prince Abdul Mateen, are the only members along with the Sultan that carry out government duties full-time in the country. The princes may work for the country full-time, but they can hardly compare to their father, who holds almost every seat of power in Brunei. He is the Prime Minister of the country, as well as the head of the government, Minister of Defense, Supreme Commander of the Royal Brunei Armed Forces, Inspector General of the Police, and an honorary admiral in the Navy. It is not hard to see why the Sultan's word is law, and his pockets run deep. You now know more than a bit about the wealthy princes and their jaw-dropping net worths. But what about the rest of the family? Before we have a look at them, though, I would like to take you on a little trip back in time. History of Brunei's royal family. The House of Bolkiah can trace its lineage back to the 14th century. Reports have it that the family descended from a Western prince that became sultan. Sadly, there is no way to know for sure, since Brunei's early history is largely unknown and lost to time. What we do know is that Muhammad Shah eventually became the Sultan of Brunei. His reign was one that ushered in great wealth and riches to both the royal family and the country, giving birth to the Malay dynasty. It was a time when Brunei grew to become an empire until they lost what they had due to colonial powers. Today, Hassan al-Bolkiah, who became the current and 29th Sultan of Brunei, has transformed the country and earned himself a place among the world's wealthiest. Well, that's enough of the boring history lesson. Now it's time to find out about the lives of each member of this ultra-wealthy family. As the head of the royal family of Brunei, as well as the country, Sultan Hassan al basically owns the Brunei Investment Agency. That is the corporation that controls the vast finances and investments of the country, like the Dorchester Collection, a portfolio of luxury hotels. The agency also controls holdings in real estate, gold, currency, more luxury hotels in the UK, the Beverly Hills Hotel in LA, and more luxury hotels. If you think that is all that adds to the huge fortune of the Sultan, think again. In addition to the fortune the Sultan gets from the agency, he earns $100 a second from oil dealings that add up to a whopping $2 billion each year, which is why he was once hailed as the world's richest man for many years. He held the position until he was displaced by Bill Gates. With that much wealth in hand, it is no surprise that the Sultan takes the time and consideration to enjoy the finer things in life. One such thing the 76-year-old ruler enjoys is living in one of the largest palaces in the world. The Istana Nurul Iman is a 1,788-room palace that is located in the country's capital city. It contains 257 bathrooms, gold-plated escalators, a banquet hall that that can accommodate about 5,000 people, a 110-car garage, plus an additional 800-car underground garage, 5 swimming pools, and a state-of-the-art stable for his 200 Argentine polo ponies. Needless to say, the palace is no doubt larger than the Vatican. Okay, maybe that is a bit of an exaggeration. 200 ponies is a lot of ponies, but I guess the Sultan takes the sport of polo seriously. You know what they say about it, it is the sport of royalty. Although many of the palace rooms are used for government purposes like state functions, the Sultan keeps over 900 of the rooms for the private use of the royal family. In addition to a breathtaking and record-breaking palace, the Sultan owns an 11.2-acre home in Las Vegas that is worth about $37.5 million, a lavish mansion near Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills, California, valued at $38 million, and the St. John's Lodge home in London that costs a whopping £110 million. That is over $131 million. The Sultan certainly does not hide his wealth, and his extravagant spending habits are not criticized by the press because, well, he is the king. As a result of these habits, many have joked that the only thing Brunei's ruler cannot afford is democracy. This is not very far-fetched because Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah can not only afford a $1.5 billion palace, but also a vast collection of over 6,000 expensive cars. That's right, the Sultan definitely prefers unique cars and is always on the lookout for something new. That is why he owns arguably the largest and most valuable car collection on Earth. The monarch owns a custom-made gold-coated Rolls-Royce and 600 other exorbitantly priced Rolls-Royces, 550 Mercedes-Benz vehicles, 450 Ferraris, 10 McLaren F1s, 8 Ferrari F40s, 3 Ferrari LaFerraris, a handful of Bugattis, and many more automobile wonders that the general public is yet to catch sight of. Most people who have car collections this magnificent often end up stockpiling the cars and treating them like trophies, but the Sultan is the opposite of that. He has been known to tear through the streets with his brother every now and then in any one of the cars from his collection. For a man who drives around in custom-made gold cars and can afford just about anything, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that the Sultan owns a collection of jaw-dropping private jets for more long-distance travel. Over the years, there have been reports that the Sultan owns his very own Boeing 747-400, a type of plane used for larger airlines. His large private jet can seat up to 568 persons, but its only purpose is to chauffeur the Sultan overseas. He also reportedly owns a Boeing 767-200 and an Airbus A340-200 jet because, contrary to the popular saying sometimes, more is more. The Boeing 747-400 is indeed a beauty, but the Sultan of Brunei decided he wanted to turn things up a notch, so he gave orders for his aircraft to be gold-plated. After all, nothing shows off the status of a sultan like gold does. Aside from being gold-plated, Sultan Hassanal's private jet is so luxurious that it is nicknamed the Flying Palace. The plane is itself an actual palace, with a living room, a bedroom detailed with a lot of gold, no surprise there, a separate remote control desk, and more luxuries than the US Presidential Air Force One. According to the British media, the plane cost the Sultan a staggering $400 million. And the Airbus A340-200 was apparently a gift for one of his daughter's birthdays. Just like when traveling, the head of the richest family in Brunei spares no cost when it comes to grooming. To this effect, there are claims by some news outlets that the Sultan spends a little over $20,000 for a single haircut. The Sultan reportedly flies his favorite barber all the way from the Dorchester Hotel in London each time he needs a trim. And when the barber is done doing his thing, he is paid in cash more often than not, because there just seems to be a lot of it around all the time. If you are still stunned about the $20,000 plus spent on haircuts, you should know that the Sultan spends just as much money on other things, like getting a massage or acupuncture treatments, and even his badminton coach is rumored to be earning around $2 million. Consistent with his extremely expensive taste, the Sultan also has a thing for art. He once paid $70 million for a single oil painting by the French Impressionist Pierre-Auguste Renoir. The painting, Two Young Girls at the Piano, rests among Sultan Hassanal's art collection, and going by his taste, you can expect said collection to be comprised of more art pieces almost as expensive, if not more. The Sultan truly lives an extravagant lifestyle, and his everyday choices reflect that. When celebrating his 50th birthday, he threw a massive party concert, inviting the great Michael Jackson, a feat that set him back 17 $17 million. Determined to go all out, Sultan Hassanal built a stadium in Jerudong Park just for the occasion, and that is not even one of the most insane ways he spends his fortune. On the more outrageous side of things, it is rumored that the Sultan gave Whitney Houston a blank check for a single paid performance, instructing her to fill it with what she thought it was worth, which was apparently more than $7 million. As intensely lavish as the Sultan's spending habits are, people say that he can almost be considered prudent when compared to his brother Jeffrey, Prince Abdul Hakim Jeffrey Bolkiah. Famous sports shooter Prince Jeffrey might have a rather tame net worth of $5 million when compared to the vast wealth of his brother the Sultan, but that does not stop him from spending billions whenever he wants. The Sultan's brother was once dubbed a notorious playboy by Vanity Fair, so you can't say that His Royal Highness does not know how to live largely. Brunei's playboy prince probably has gone through more money than any other human in the world. His well-publicized expenses had once been estimated to amount to around $50 million a month. Details of the prince's outrageous spending habits have been the talk of the town, or in this case the country, for years on end. He is rumored to have more than 2,300 cars. He also owned a luxurious yacht inappropriately named Tits. If you are already covering your ears, you should hear what he named the tenders on the yacht. The large and luxurious yacht was custom built for the prince by the Netherlands Fedship, so you can guess just how many zeros were on the price tag. If you guessed anywhere around $19 million, ding ding ding, you were correct. The luxury yacht is equipped with a personal gym, an office, walk-in wardrobes, and one of the most ornate bathrooms ever made. But all that is nothing compared to the sprawling master bedroom and stateroom, as well as the VIP stateroom. Currently, some reports state that the super yacht has been sold off to an undisclosed buyer, but others suggest the yacht still belongs to the Prince Jeffrey. Whichever is the case, if Jeffrey really did sell the super yacht, it certainly was not for lack of money, because in the years that followed, the prince has acquired more expensive properties. Unlike many, Prince Jeffrey can boast of having purchased over 600 luxury items and properties over the years. These items include numerous works of art, 9 private jets, including an Airbus and a Sikorsky helicopter, rugs made of pure gold thread and precious jewels, and also more yachts beside the great big tits. As far as we know, the prince does live up to the image of a glorious spender, and with a brother like the Sultan, it's not hard to fund the crazy rich lifestyle. However, in a shocking turn of events, Prince Jeffrey's spending habits landed him in trouble with the Sultan, who accused him of embezzling $15 billion from the Brunei investment agency. You gotta wonder how else he'd be able to afford his insanely extravagant life with a net worth of only $5 million. It is well documented that Prince Jeffrey spent $2.7 billion on 2,000 luxury automobiles in the United States and overseas, as well as on his aircraft, innumerable luxury boats, gold and silver jewelry, colossal diamonds, houses, mistresses, and even escorts, as some sources claim. In his prime, Jeffrey's palace featured gold-plated toilet brushes and toilet paper holders, a 12-foot-tall bronze rocking horse, 12 antique cannons, and more things that were just beyond luxury. The prince would often book entire floors of the best hotels for his entourage and made sure that millions was spent on their debauchery. According to sources, Prince Jeffrey spent a total of $78 million on custom-made Ferraris and $475 million at the Rolls-Royce shops. At this time, it wouldn't have been too much of a stretch to call the royal playboy a walking market. He simply went about buying everything that caught his eye. As a result of his extravagant nature, Jeffrey made wild purchases, like the time he bought a rug woven with solid gold, worth $7 million. Another time, he splurged $8 million on 10 jewel-encrusted wristwatches that gained attention in the media for having displays that showed couples having the private kind of fun. In addition to the pervy watches, some reports claim that Jeffrey has similarly designed fountain pens worth $1.3 million. It is important to note that a significant chunk of Prince Jeffrey's extravagant lifestyle was spent with his brother the Sultan, who also indulged in lavish spending, although not as much as Jeffrey. For many years, the two brothers raced through the streets of Brunei, visited the prince's pleasure palace, and made wild purchases together. You could say that, at a point, the two brothers were practically inseparable, so inseparable that people would forget that there is a third Bolkiah brother, Prince Mohammed Bolkiah, who is known to lead a quiet and pious life away from the prying eyes of the public. Despite dropping out of school at the age of 15, Prince Jeffrey was named the Minister of Finance, as well as the head of the Brunei Investment Agency by his brother. Seeing how unqualified Jeffrey was for the job of managing Brunei's massive oil wealth, it is safe to say the Sultan must have made this decision based on his love for his brother. This turned out to be a colossal mistake because Prince Jeffrey almost single-handedly bankrupted one of the richest countries in the world. On the eve of the tragedy, Jeffrey fled to Europe before seeking shelter in the United States. It was during this period that his son Faik Bolkiah was born in Los Angeles, and within a few years, he went into a luxurious exile with his father in England. Brunei's wealth was almost depleted due to Prince Jeffrey's expensive desires, and Sultan Hassanal even denounced his brother many times to the Privy Council. In an attempt to salvage the situation, the two finally negotiated an agreement. His Royal Highness Jeffrey transferred $6 billion in assets to the Sultan, who then ceased pursuing the case, enabling his younger brother to settle in England. Years later, many are now convinced that the love for all things extravagant is deeply rooted in the blood of the Bolkiahs, because despite not being raised in Brunei, Jeffrey's son, also named Prince Hakim, made headlines with his expensive purchases at the mere age of 14. Reports have it that the teenager bought 2 Bentleys from a Beverly Hills dealer at the same time, and at the time he didn't even have a license. Aside from a taste for all things extravagant, another thing that the members of Brunei's royal family seem to have in common is a love for luxury vehicles. This applies in particular to the Crown Prince himself, Crown Prince Al-Muhtadi Billah. As the Crown Prince and heir apparent to the throne of Brunei, Prince Al-Muhtadi stands to inherit everything owned by the Sultan, and as you have learned, that is a whole lot of wealth to inherit. With the way things are, by the time the prince sits on the gilded throne, he may very well be the first trillionaire in the world. But the good thing about the Crown Prince is that nobody is worried about how he is going to manage the vast fortune that will drop right into his lap in the years to come. Prince Al-Muhtadi currently holds the position of Senior Minister in the Brunei Prime Minister's office, General of the Royal Armed Forces, and Deputy Chief Inspector of the Royal Brunei Police. Needless to say, it appears that the prince is being groomed for the Sultanate by his father, or perhaps he is grooming himself for the throne. Whichever way, going by what I've seen of his life so far, he might just make a better sultan than his father. The Crown Prince is famous in the country and beyond for being a, well, prince, a beloved one at that. As one would expect, Prince Al-Muhtadi inherited not only his father's capabilities in the ruling department, but also his penchant for the finer things of life. A particular fine thing in his life is his wife, Pengiran Anak Sarah, the Crown Princess of Brunei. The royal wedding between these two will probably remain one of Asia's most lavish events for a while, and that is putting it lightly. No expense was spared by the Sultan when it came to the wedding of his successor, and boy, was it a tumble of expenses. The event was so big and important that it attracted politicians and other royals from around the world. I mean, who wouldn't honor an invitation extended by one of the world's most powerful royal families? Before the princess shared her vows with the Crown Prince, covered in overly expensive jewels from head to toe, not much was known about her. As a result of this, many speculated that she might be from a not-so-rich family of distant relatives to the royal family, but there is no way to know for sure. What I do know is that the Crown Princess is a brilliant woman who excelled in her studies and is highly proficient in the game of netball, just like her sister-in-law, sporty Princess Fadzila. After the wedding, the public quickly learned that Princess Sarah is not one to be dwarfed by the shadow of her royal husband. She constantly reminds the public of her presence by winning both nationally and internationally acclaimed honors. The princess has been named a senior of the most esteemed family order of Brunei, as well as been given Jordan's Crowned Cordon Special Class of the Supreme Order of the Renaissance. She has also received the Netherlands Grand Cross of the Order of the Crown. The princess has made a net worth of about $1 million just from being a professional celebrity, but considering the fact that her husband stands to inherit billions from his father, Her Royal Highness stands to become one of the richest women in the world. Despite her vast wealth, Princess Sarah tends to stay away from the limelight most of the time. She enjoys simple things like music and classical and modern theater, which is way tamer than her husband's interests. For his interests, Prince Al-Muhtadi owns expensive sports cars from around the world. Just like his father, his collection includes a Lamborghini Murcielago LP640, a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren, and a Ferrari 599 GTB Fiorano, all cars that can go the mile while costing big bucks. As a big sports enthusiast, the Crown Prince has participated in several professional sports events, but the biggest move he made in sports was when he bought a local football team. He owns the Brunei DPMM and previously played as a goalkeeper for them. The Crown Prince may own a football team of his own, but that is almost worth peanuts when compared to his cousin, who is known as the richest footballer in the world, Faik Jeffrey Bolkiah. If you are a big fan of football, you must know that the world-famous Cristiano Ronaldo recently signed the world's wealthiest contract with the Arab professional league football club Al Nassr. The recent and controversial move will earn the star player a staggering amount of $214 million per year. By the end of his contract, he will be earning almost 9 zeros, making him the highest-paid player and even athlete in all of history. But with all that bag, and the fact that Ronaldo is still one of the richest players ever, his net worth still falls short of making him the richest footballer in the world currently. That is a title that belongs to Prince Jeffrey's son, Faik Jeffrey Bolkiah. The first thing you should know about this royal baller is that the ex-Chelsea player is so rich that he could buy Premier League's Manchester United twice. He is often described as the world's richest footballer, and with a net worth of around $20 billion, he is definitely among the richest in his family. Faik is not really one for the Brunei royal life. He was born in Los Angeles and grew up in England. It was there that he found his love for the game. Growing up, Faik watched and idolized Brazilian legend Ronaldo. He pretty much decided football was for him, rather than the life of a prince, and started his career at the Saints Premier League club Southampton. From there, he went on to play for various other clubs, like the U15 Chelsea team, Leicester City, and even Portugal's Maritimo. Despite having an extensive football career so far, Faik, however, has not made much of an appearance in the big leagues. The royal forward player hasn't really played for the senior teams in the leagues, so you have to wonder how he became the world's richest player. I guess that being Prince Daddy's boy obviously pays more than well. Faik has become a celebrity back in Brunei, where he even captained the national team, despite never having played a minute of real professional football. The football star of the Bolkiah family lives a life of luxury, be it in his home country of Brunei, Los Angeles, or anywhere else, especially in the UK, where he has spent most of his life. According to British sources, Faik has spent nothing less than $35 million on luxury automobiles, timepieces, and other luxury items. His car collection includes the likes of a McLaren F1, a gold-plated Mercedes, a custom-made silver super limousine, a right-hand drive Ferrari A40, and the list goes on and on. Cars aside, Faik has a thing for exotic pets and owns a pet tiger, which he plays football with during his free time. Name just one other person who plays ball with a tiger. I'll wait. Despite all these luxuries at Faik Bolkiah's disposal, it is said that he still lives a rather modest lifestyle. He currently lives in a $170 per month condo in Chonburi, Thailand, and drives a Toyota Yaris to training. That being said, it doesn't hurt that in case of any emergency whatsoever, Faik has a super luxury credit card with a limit of around $820,000, provided by his dearest royal daddy. To be fair, Faik is not the only one that enjoys luxury and royal perks like this, though. His cousins also enjoy such perks from their father, the Sultan, Prince Abdul Mateen. As much of a celebrity back in Brunei as his cousin Faik, Prince Mateen is arguably the most popular prince in the family, especially on the gram. Prince Mateen is the 10th child of the Sultan and 6th in line to the throne, but he certainly doesn't need the throne to showcase the family wealth. The prince uses his very popular social media accounts to show the public glimpses of how the royal family of Brunei lives. Prince Mateen periodically shares pictures of his insane and unbelievable lifestyle, which is why he has gained so much of the online popularity he has currently. One of the things the popular prince loves to post are his beloved pets. They are, however, not your everyday household pets. While the average Joe would get himself a pretty ginger cat or cute Labrador, the taste of the star of the Bolkiah family is a little more exotic. I mean, why get a pretty ginger cat when you can get an ocelot? If you can afford one, that is. Prince Mateen not only owns an ocelot, lot, but he also owns white tigers and a leopard. He pretty much calls himself the father of tigers. As it turns out, the prince's love for animals is not limited to just exotic, dangerous animals. It also extends to horses, and his father owns a lot of them for him to show off. Prince Mateen has a lot of interests other than animals, and one of them is sports, which he loves just as much. He does a lot of horseback riding and polo, with the many horses housed in the royal stables, and that is not all. The prince is so in love with sports that the extent of his athletic interests is almost too long to list. He enjoys golfing, rowing, boxing, snorkeling, badminton, and skydiving. Yeah, this royal daredevil is in love with the skies. When Prince Mateen isn't skydiving, he still has reason to go up there, because he is a trained pilot. He was even awarded the RAF Wing Badge, which qualifies him as a helicopter pilot. You can be sure he did not get that with the royal family connections. And another thing he did not need his family for is his lieutenancy in the Royal Army. The man who many might think is just a spoiled prince had no problem scaling mountains, running for a whole day, and digging trenches for 3 days straight to get his position in the army. It is no wonder why Prince Mateen is loved as much as he is by the people of Brunei, just like his stepmother, the Queen. Queen Saleha binti Mohammed Alam. As the wife of one of the richest monarchs in the world, Queen Saleha is no stranger to living a life of luxury. Being together with the Sultan for over 50 years, the Queen has acquired a lot of wealth that befits her status. The fact that she lives in the biggest palace in the world is one thing. Another thing is that Queen Saleha probably has enough diamonds to open an exhibit, but despite being surrounded by some of the world's luxurious luxuries, the Queen's interests are a bit tamer. The Queen of Brunei is an avid lover of nature. She owns a fish pond, a bird park, and a fruit garden all to herself. Nature is, however, not the Queen's only interest, as just like some of her kids and their cousins, she does like a bit of sport. She played badminton as well as Bruneian games like Kongkak and Pasang. However, as the Queen of all of Brunei, Queen Saleha does not really have the time for games and luxuries. Most of her time is spent as the head of various government and non-government organizations in the country. She is the patron of organizations like the country's Women Institute, Girl Guide Association of Brunei Darussalam, Women's Graduates Association, Pertiwi Association, and many more. Safe to say that the Queen is truly a leader of the women of Brunei. The rest of the family. We know that Prince Mateen, alongside his sister, Princess Azamar, love to wear insanely expensive clothes and watches. They are often surrounded by flashy cars, and they sure love to flaunt their wealth and live large. But they aren't the only members of the family capable of hugging the limelight. The whole family joined Princess Fadzila Lubabul-Bolkiah, the Sultan's 9th child and 6th daughter, at her wedding. To stun the whole world watching, the 10-day royal wedding spared no expense, and it was the talk of the town months after. Dripping in jewels and style, the princess showed off a huge amount of wealth in just her ensemble alone. She wore a diamond tiara, as well as an insanely expensive pearl and diamond necklace, which she borrowed from her mother. Before that, though, the princess mostly stayed out of the spotlight, although she is well known as the sporty princess, being captain of the Brunei netball team. It seems like the whole family tends to excel in one sport or another. Perhaps the only thing they excel more in is spending their vast fortune. Yet another shared interest of the Bolkiah family is the love for all things shiny. According to some reports, the family used to spend an estimated $500 million per year on purchasing custom-made jewelry from the London jeweler Asprey. There was so much money going to the jewelers from the House of Bolkiah that they simply decided to buy it. The Sultan bought the place for $375 million in 1995, a place that has traditionally been the jeweler of the British royal family, or more simply, the Queen's jeweler. That is the extent of the wealth of Brunei's richest family. All in all, the wealthy royal family is undoubtedly having the time of their lives in Brunei.